What is up, guys? So today I'm going to tell you something all very enlightening that I think will help you guys out tremendously, girls and guys alike. So both parties have trouble keeping a conversation going, and one of the things that is constantly mentioned or asked is, how do I keep this conversation going? And there's a certain rule that I think you should follow initially. If you can't keep the convo going for over 5 minutes with someone, sure, there's all these things you can use to keep it going that I can teach you guys and tell you about, but you really just think about it. Do you really have enough interest in common with this person, or are you dramatically overextending yourself? For instance, me personally, I like certain video games like League of Legends and certain stuff like that, anime, manga, and so forth. And I like a lot of stuff that are eccentric. And so, sure, despite this, because I have some sort of social skill that I've recently developed, I can be interested in what other people like. So most girls aren't into these sort of things, League of Legends and so forth. But I can keep a conversation going. But there comes a point where you're just trying too hard, and you have to come and realize that this girl just doesn't have a lot of stuff in common with you. Same thing with the girl viewers out there who have either complained about not being able to keep enough interest in common with a guy or talk to a guy for too long. And sure, a lot of the times you may be ascribing this when in reality you do have a lot of stuff in common. But again, you also want to avoid both extremes. You have to be sure of where you are. And for me personally, I've gone to both extremes, and it still varies. Sometimes there's plenty to talk about, but I'm just lacking in social skills, and there's plenty of common interests, but for some reason it's not working out. And usually when that happens, it's down to two reasons. You have a lot of stuff in common, but one, it's a two-way street, and the girl is just not interested in you for whatever reason. This happened to me, or at least I think it happened to me recently, when I mentioned something about this girl to these girls, and all of a sudden they started clamming up. And it may have been because it revealed I had low social status or something like that, which sort of pissed me off, because I don't like people who judge others based on just social status anyways. But it was too close to tell, like you couldn't really tell. And again, it's a two-way street. So you can be trying your hardest, but if the girl is not trying at all, or sort of ignoring you on purpose, or doing it so that's borderline hard for you to tell, then that's another thing. And I think a lot of people, girls or guys alike, get blinded by this. I've gotten a few questions from girls asking for advice, and it seems obvious, and it happens a lot, where it's like you are trying really, really hard, and this person is not trying, or not trying very hard. And especially when you're constantly trying to improve yourself, like me, learning about self-help, self-improvement, dating, and all this stuff to improve myself, you forget that it's a two-way street, and you're like, what can I do to get better? It's always something that I did wrong, and sometimes it's not always the case. Like, you can try and do all this stuff, but it's a two-way street. The girl can also be very much interested or not very much interested, and if she's being really cold and giving you a really difficult time, then you might want to move on. Sometimes you can salvage it, but I'll leave that for another video. And then the second reason is just lack of social skills. And I actually got a lot of advice from dating coaches, some of them who charge and stuff. And I watched a ton of YouTube videos, read a lot of articles online. Probably every video on YouTube about dating I've probably watched, more or less. Um, and so social skill wise, there are certain things you can use to keep a conversation going. And despite this, I've struck some gold with some techniques, but despite these, like, at the end of the day, it's down to whether the girl is interested in talking to you, which is kind of sad, because like, if the girl is interested in a topic and she still doesn't want to talk to you, same thing with the guy, for my girl viewers out there. If they're not interested, you're gonna be really hard set. Like, sure, there's a lot to talk about, but she's giving you a tough time keeping it going. So that's one thing in mind that you have to have. But yeah, keeping a conversation going with anyone can be done, because what you want to do is talk about what they're interested in, because people, just by definition, have a lot of history and interest. Maybe they won't reveal them initially, but history is something that they can't deny. They were born somewhere. They were from some area, and so forth. And you don't want to end up in a dead end where you're asking a question that has a one-word answer. So you want to ask stuff like how and why, rather than where and what. And you want to keep it going, and every response they give, you just branch off of that. There's a million ways you can go with a response. Every word is related to a bunch of other scenarios and subjects, and you just want to branch off of that. So if she mentions a dog in her answer, you branch off of the dog. If she mentions how she hates her chemistry class because she just failed it, you can branch off so many things: the test, the chemistry, the school, why she's taking the class, etc. You get the point. It's a skill. It takes a lot of developing. It's not something that you can just read up on or listen to this video and do. You have to gain the knowledge and then practice it. It's like tennis. You can't read a book on how to play tennis. That's all I gotta say. Later. As always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe.